A baby's sleep can be really tricky and quite honestly exhausting. I've put together my insights based on my learning and experience that should hopefully point you in the right direction. Hello, I'm Cassie from Custom Built Parenthood with tips and a fresh perspective to create your space, parent on purpose, and streamline your home. Today we're talking about how to help a baby sleep. I think all of us parents have been there at some point or another. I know I have been there many times and honestly still find myself there every once in a while when my baby or older child just is struggling to sleep. It can be so exhausting. You can get so sleep deprived, and it's really hard to be your best self and best parent when you're so tired. So putting sleep as a priority is definitely worth doing. It can be a little tricky though, knowing how to approach this, especially with a baby. From day one, your baby is probably sleeping a lot, and a lot of questions come to your mind. When will my baby sleep through the night? Or will they ever be able to fall asleep on their own? There's a lot of questions that come to mind, and it can be really daunting knowing exactly what to do and how to handle all of these situations. Teaching a baby to sleep on their own will get your baby better sleep. So that's the focus of this video, is how to help your baby sleep by teaching them to sleep on their own. For this topic, I decided it makes the most sense to just start at day one. So starting with the newborn stage, how I handle a baby's sleep. Even if your child's a little bit older, if you've got a 6-month-old or a 12-month-old or whatever stage you're at, I'm still going to start at the beginning just to kind of tell you my process and how I approach the topic of baby sleep. Stick around till the end. I will definitely give you guys 3 extra tools and products essentially that really help my baby sleep. So stick around for that, and let's just dive right in. So when it comes to newborns sleep a lot. So you might be wondering, how do I teach my newborn to sleep? The answer is you probably don't really have to. Most parents understand and realize newborns fall asleep often. They're falling asleep almost anywhere and anytime. It usually doesn't really even take much. If you're meeting their basic needs, sleep is just going to happen. They are so tired. They are growing so much. They're adjusting to life outside of the womb. They're going to be sleeping way more than anything else that they're doing. Unless you're up against colic or a hard temperament, your baby is probably pretty much handling this. So when it comes to newborns, it's important to understand that their eating will determine their sleeping. So they'll eat when they're hungry and sleep when they're tired. Really, your only job is just to facilitate those things and meet those needs. So feed them when they're hungry and then soothe and calm them when they're tired. You can do this by swaddling and also by giving them a pacifier to suck on. I talked about these things a little bit more in my newborn video. I'll link that here, but it's a concept from a book. I can link that in the description as well. The 5 S's of how to soothe your baby. And when you're doing those things, it really helps your baby calm down and stay asleep longer. So if you're doing that, your baby should just sleep whenever they're tired, and it's not really your job to teach them how to sleep at this point. You need to feed them when they're hungry and let them sleep when they're tired. Work closely with their pediatrician to make sure they are gaining that weight that they need to, and you can kind of think about stretching feedings if that's something your pediatrician says is on the table around like 2 to 4 months old. You really don't want to even be thinking about that much sooner. Your baby's just not developmentally ready for that. You definitely can't spoil a baby in this stage. So as a newborn, anytime they're crying, they need something. So attend to that need right away. Teach them that you are trustworthy and they can count on you to meet all of their needs, whether that's feeding or fussy or tired, whatever it is. Be in tune with those needs and be meeting those needs right away. My best advice at the newborn stage is just don't rush it. It's not going to last forever. These nighttime feedings, you're going to feel so tired. You're going to feel like you're up all night with them, and you probably are. That's just kind of the nature of newborns. Some might sleep great, and some might have a really easy temperament, but others are going to be quite demanding. I know my 3rd baby was very colicky, so he was fussy a lot, and that can be wearing, but just stick with it. It's only temporary, and you're really laying that foundation of teaching your baby that you are there for them, they can count on you, and then it'll be that much easier to kind of transition them into sleeping longer. So once your baby's about 6 months of age, that's really when a baby is ready to start sleep training. Some might recommend around 3 to 4 months old, and if your baby's ready for that, that's great. Once again, check with their pediatrician, make sure they're gaining all that weight that they need to, make sure that they are developmentally ready for that transition. I know none of my babies were. From day one, they were very teeny tiny, and they stayed that way. They had a hard time gaining weight. I had a hard time keeping up my milk supply during breastfeeding. So for us, it was just a long road for those first several months of feeding them when they needed to eat. I found that this was the best way to keep my milk supply up and the best way to keep my babies healthy and gaining the weight that they needed to. So then by about 5 or 6 months of age, they were ready for that sleep training. So sleep training really just refers to getting your baby to sleep on their own for longer stretches at night. So around 4 to 6 months of age, when you're ready, decide that this is something you're ready to commit to. It does take some consistency and some dedication. You want to be giving it your full attention for at least those first 2 to 6, 7 days even. The longer the better to really get them in this new routine. So all you're going to do is avoid car rides, avoid stroller rides. Basically, you're really going to be teaching your baby to fall asleep on their own without any assistance, without any motion, none of that. So you're going to be laying them in a crib or in a bassinet that's just sitting there. So no rocking, swings, or anything like that. You're not going to be holding them, rocking them to sleep. You are going to be laying them into their crib, drowsy but awake. So once you've determined you're ready to start sleep training your baby, you're going to first determine what the bedtime is going to be and what the routine is going to be associated with that bedtime. I talked a lot about this in my creating a nighttime routine. You can check that out here. But basically, you're just going to figure out how many hours of sleep they should be getting at night, what's a realistic time to be laying them down into bed, and then what you're going to do right before that to calm them, let them naturally start winding down, and mostly to trigger that they understand, oh, this is bedtime. We're getting ready for bedtime. We always do this. So diaper change, jammies, brush their teeth and gums, read a little book, sing a song or something. And then you're going to for sure lay them down into their bed, drowsy but awake. This is really crucial. This is really the whole point of teaching your baby to sleep on their own. You are going to let them fall asleep however they're going to need to fall asleep during the night when they wake up. So no rocking, no motion. You're just going to lay them down. You can hold them for a minute or a few minutes, no longer than 5 minutes probably, but make sure they are not asleep when you lay them down. Lay them down awake and let them put themselves to sleep. Lay them down and walk away. There might be crying right away. You might leave and then hear crying a few minutes later. That's totally normal. This is new for your baby, probably. This is a new experience, having to fall asleep on their own, so you need to be prepared for that. The whole nature of this beast is consistency. So you need to decide from the get-go what your approach is going to be. So commit to those times, commit to those routines, and commit to your response. So when they start crying, kind of already know what the plan is. I honestly believe there's no one set approach that will work for every baby and parent combination. Every baby is different and has a different temperament, and all of us as parents are different, and we have a different comfort level and things that we feel okay about doing, different lifestyle. All of us are very different. So figure out the approach that works for you with those solid things in mind. Your baby should have a consistent bedtime. They should have a consistent routine, and that bedtime and routine should not be too late. As far as your expectations though, this is what you really need to customize. So for my babies, like I said, their weight gain, my milk supply, all of those factors involved, I never really expected my babies to sleep through the night. I would follow their lead and let their sleep naturally and gradually extend longer and longer. That was just my choice and based on kind of pediatrician's input. Your baby might be just fine with weight, and you might be ready to kind of push the boundaries a little bit to get them to sleep longer, and only you can decide that. Work closely with your pediatrician to figure out what the realistic expectations are. Your sleep is very important. As the parent, don't underestimate that. You definitely need to meet your baby's needs, but you have needs as well. So factor everything that you have, all those factors, and come up with the best solution. My baby did not sleep through the night until 10 months old. again, that was kind of my choice and just his natural progression towards that, and I was okay with that. If you're not, reassess and figure out what your approach is going to be. Okay, so getting back on track here, you've just laid your baby in their bed, they start crying. What do? So I did want to share some thoughts on crying it out. First, right off the bat, I want to stress you are not even considering crying it out until they're at least 4 months old, and you're never going to let them cry it out for longer than 1 hour. Those are two very important things right off the bat. If your baby's younger than that, you don't even need to listen to this. Don't worry about this yet until they're a little bit older. Having said that, crying is probably going to be part of the deal when you're sleep training. Your baby will have to learn that lesson through those kind of tough times. So expect some crying and realize it's not hurting your baby to cry. As long as you're letting it be less than an hour and as long as they're old enough, crying's just going to be part of the journey and has certainly been a part of all of my kids' journeys when I'm sleep training. So I will link in the description my favorite sleep book for babies and older children, but he said it best when he kind of points out, if your toddler is crying that they don't want to brush their teeth, do you just cave and not let them brush their teeth? Or when your 1-year-old is crying for juice instead of milk, do you just always give them the juice? No, crying cannot detract you from the purpose and the bigger picture. You're doing this for their health. Sleep is crucial to their development. So the whole approach of crying it out might just already be sending you to the hills. You don't want anything to do with that. I'm not going to make my baby do that, and that's totally fine. I've been there and I feel the same way sometimes. I will just say, you need to realize it's not all or nothing. So the approach I tend to take is kind of a gradual crying it out. So lay your baby down, walk away. Always walk away. If nothing else, walk away and leave the room and set a timer for 5 minutes. This is what I'll do, or maybe 10 minutes, whatever you're comfortable with. Until that timer rings, don't go in there. Once the timer rings, walk into your baby's room, go by their crib. You can kind of touch their stomach, say, I love you, it's time to sleep, and then walk away. You're not lifting your baby up. You're not repeating any part of the routine. You're teaching them this is not time to interact. This is not even time to talk or play or probably even make eye contact, but I'm here for you. I love you. It's time to sleep, and leave the room. And then if they keep crying, you could extend the timer, maybe double that amount of time. So 10 minutes or 20 minutes, same thing. Let the timer do its thing. Once it rings, if they're still crying, you can walk in there. I have found sometimes this only flares them up and makes them even more upset and frantic. So follow your baby's cues, do what works for you, but they do need a chance to understand this is what's happening. This is the deal. It's time to sleep. Nothing's going to change that, and they can start learning how to self-soothe. So the last thing I wanted to address is all the bumps in the road. So you do those first few days of sleep training, maybe they go awesome, and within a few days, your baby's got this. They're good to go. And then a few weeks later or a few months later, they start cutting their first tooth, let's say, and sleep goes down the drain. The whole routine's thrown off, the schedule's thrown off, they're waking up in pain, crying. There's just so many things that happen within that first year, even year and a half of life, sickness, bumps in the schedule, whatever it is, there's so many disruptions that a baby will experience. So I want to just give you a little bit of encouragement and just say, number one, establish sleep as a priority always. So no matter what the situation is, try to always have bedtime be the same. Time, routine, it happens no matter what. Rare occasions where you're out late, that's fine, but it will take a toll. Just make sure you're not having multiple all in a row, or that will absolutely throw it off. One night here or there should be recoverable. If it's something like teething, it's gonna be several nights all in a row that they're waking up, having problems, and just don't give up. You might have to start all the way over once that tooth is in, and that's okay. That's just the name of the game. A few weeks ago, my son got very, very sick. He's 1 year old. He had it down well before that. He was sleeping solid 12 hours every single night, and then after those few nights of sickness, he forgot how to sleep. So he was waking up all the time. He was waking up super duper early in the morning, we're honestly still recovering, and it's tough. Just stick with it, don't give up, and definitely don't ever cave and just think, well, they'll just sleep when they want to, so whatever. Establish it as a priority as much as you can. Be as consistent as you can, and just be prepared for the bumps in the road, because they will come. All right, so that's kind of the process I follow sleep training my babies. I did want to give you a few tools or products that can really help this process. So number one is a white noise machine. This really helps drown out noise and prevent your baby from waking up more often than they naturally would. Certainly you can use this for babies. It kind of mimics the womb and it does soothe them, so you can get it from the very beginning, or at least start when they're about 6 months old, when you're starting to sleep train, just to drown out all the excess noise for them to just sleep as solidly as possible. Second thing is room darkening curtains or blinds or whatever you want to use over your windows. Totally black out that light. Any age of person sleeps way better the darker it is, but especially your baby, you don't want them waking up earlier than is necessary from that morning sun. Or if they have an earlier bedtime, you want it to be dark enough to tell them it's time to sleep. Even naps, that will come in handy. It's dark, it's time to sleep. It will help them sleep better. The third thing is a lovey. So it's the stuffed animal head with a little square attached to that little head. That's like a little blankie. And it's just the perfect little thing to have in your baby's bed when you're tucking them in as a comfort item. I give my babies these at 6 months of age. Unlike regular big stuffed animals or blankets, these are actually safe to put in with your baby at 6 months of age, as long as they don't have any removable eyes or buttons. And you can give it to them basically for that transition. I'm leaving, but this is staying. Love this, fall asleep with this, and it can really just soothe them and help them feel comfort. I make sure that the lovey always stays in the crib, so it's only for sleeping, so it's not really a comfort item that they're allowed to just carry through the house. It's the one special thing that's waiting for them in their bed. Also, this helps not lose track of it, because at bedtime, when you're ready to lay them down, the last thing you want to do is disrupt the whole thing to go looking and hunting for their security item. So think about having a lovey, keep it in their crib, and it might really help them transition from you to this item. So that's how I sleep train my babies. If all of this is just a little bit too much for you, you're wanting a more gentle approach, I will link a book in the description that is just that. It's a lot more gentle approach. It's called the Sleep Lady Shuffle, and it's kind of a progression of staying by your baby while they sleep, and then over time working your way out of the room, accomplishing the same thing, just a little bit more time intensive for you, but it works just great. So do whatever works for you. Like I'm saying, there are so many different approaches, there are different opinions. At the end of the day, you know your child and you know yourself. Do what you feel good about and just be consistent. That's the biggest thing, and the biggest takeaway I want you to have from this video is to just be consistent and to understand sleep is crucial for the entire family. Your baby needs that sleep, you need that break and that sleep. So definitely it is worth all of the energy and effort that it takes continuously. Like I said, even older children still will need help here and there. So always stick with it. You want your child to learn healthy sleep habits because they will enjoy that for the rest of their lives. Hope this helps. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying this content, and we will see you next time.